Having never used desktop-grade Apple products in the past, I never really got a chance to check out Apple's peripherals. That was until I recently got the M1 iMac 2021, where I had a chance to check out both Apple's Magic Keyboard as well as the Magic Mouse. While this video is focused on the Magic Keyboard, there is a separate one coming up for the Magic Mouse, as well as a ton of others. So if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to not miss out on that content. This being the blue iMac, the first thing of note is the color accent. In this blue shade, the keyboard does look pretty. It's also a very thin and lightweight keyboard, only 241 grams and up to 11 millimeters thick. The bottom portion of the keyboard is a bit tapered in width compared to the top, and that gives it this sort of natural incline, which definitely helps with day-to-day usage. But I wish there was a way to incline this further, perhaps with some tabs at the bottom like you'd usually find on a typical keyboard. Speaking of the bottom, there are rubber grips on the corners of the Apple Magic Keyboard, which at least helps it stay in place for the most part. Now, a keyboard, in my opinion, is defined by the typing experience, and in this case, the typing experience on the Apple Magic Keyboard is just like using a laptop keyboard, which isn't quite a good thing. As someone coming from a mechanical Razer keyboard, the departure is heavy. The keys aren't as satisfying to press, and after continuous typing, you do start to feel your fingers ache just a little bit. It also doesn't help that the keys are relatively flat, and overall, there is a lack of comfort. I'm sure for people who've just used Apple's Magic Keyboard, they'll have no problems, but having tried things that are better than Apple's Magic Keyboard, it's just hard to justify. Even the white keys, although they may match the iMac in color choices, they will get dirty pretty easily over prolonged usage. As for the layout of the keyboard, that too is fairly strange. Firstly, the smaller shift key on the left is an absolute pain to get used to. I often found myself hitting this curly apostrophe key, which I don't even think should be there in the first place. Same thing for that large caps lock key, and as a Windows user, not having the control key on the extreme bottom left is something I fail to understand. I haven't yet gotten used to Command on macOS, so I've changed it to Control just so it's a bit more familiar to me as a Windows user. Look, there's some things that I don't mind, like those arrow keys, but that small enter key also bothers me. Having to reach out all the way to the right is definitely annoying, and I just don't see why this should be an issue, especially on what should be a full keyboard experience. Even having some basic backlighting would have actually gone a long way, but unfortunately, this thing doesn't have that either. So it's utterly disappointing to say the least. And then there's Touch ID. This resides on the top right of the keyboard, and it looks just like the iPhone 7 Touch ID sensor. I wouldn't even be surprised if it's actually the same sensor being recycled. And to be honest, it works just fine. Clicking the button makes your iMac go to sleep, and the technology behind making this work wirelessly could be big, maybe for people who use Apple Pay authentication on their iMac, but definitely there isn't a wow factor for me. There's nothing much beyond that, and if I didn't have this functionality on the keyboard, I wouldn't be too bothered. Despite my negatives towards Apple's Magic Keyboard, there are some things that it does well. For example, its integration with macOS and multitasking is something that hardcore users will appreciate, as well as battery life. I've been using this thing wirelessly for about a week now, and battery has been insane. If you ever have to recharge, you do it via a Lightning port, and a Type-C to Lightning cable is provided with the iMac in the box. So that's obviously a good thing. But as far as using the Apple Magic Keyboard 2021 regularly goes, it's definitely not for me. I used it for a week. I don't like it, so I'm just going to be switching to the Razer keyboard for the foreseeable future. But yeah, that's all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, found it useful, and if you did, a like and a subscription to the channel would be very much appreciated. Thanks for watching this one. This was Vaibhav, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.